the only negative comments we get in our visitors book are about that monument. So we'd started having conversations about it several years ago, but of course the events of 2020 and the death of George Floyd and the rise of Black Lives Matter actually pushed it up the priority list.
I got involved in the project really as an assistant to Val. I've been a member of the congregation here for some time, about 10 years, but because I got involved and I had a background as a museum director, I think I got inveigled into giving some historical advice on the question of the future of the memorial to John Gordon, who died in 1774.
There's a rather peculiarity. Memorials belong to the family who put them up, to the heirs at law. So they had to go to archives in Scotland to try and find any heirs of John Gordon because the monument belonged to them. That was very inconclusive. And then a case had to be made for moving this. Churchwarden Val just had to set to provide all the paperwork to petition the Chancellor to have this memorial removed. It is the first case of this sort, so she really had to make sure that she was making the right decision in law.
It's a difficult line to tread between our responsibility to look after our precious historic buildings, but the church also has an important mission and outreach and message to welcome everybody and to declare in our own buildings and how we do it, that everybody is welcome and included and equal in the sight of God. And this particular monument contradicts that message. And so there's a limit to this preserving and treating as unchangeable our lovely historic heritage. And this monument was deemed to be the limit because it did contradict and compromise our message of inclusive welcome.
So missionally, to have such a disturbing monument in praise of someone who suppressed violently a slave result is not good mission, but it is good mission to tell the story.
Everybody has an opinion on something like this. Contested heritage wouldn't be called contested if there wasn't the whole range of opinion on it. What's interesting is that there's total agreement that history should not be destroyed. It was deemed that by local church and the VCC that the most appropriate place for a historic artifact like this is the museum next door.
We were first contacted after the judicial decision was made and faculty was granted for the removal of the monument. When a monument's put in place, there's always this understanding that you don't know what's behind the monument. There could, and there is in fact in this case, evidence of a much older inscription that was part of the wall decoration before. So working from the top, once we've excavated the location of that initial fixing, then that area around it is excavated, and according to different fixings and different locations, we take a slightly different approach, whether we're using hand tools or electric tools, on always considering the vulnerability of the nearby stone. The arguments that have been put forward to it being relocated and put into a museum locally and not very far away, where it can be interpreted for what it is and more explanation given to the history, that seems an appropriate stance in this situation.
I am pleased to see the process come through to fruition and that we acknowledge everybody that's contributed to it. Because in effect, what's been really good has been some of the conversations we've been able to have about it. I mean, it's been a difficult process and an incredibly lengthy process, but the conversations that it has engendered have been amazing. And the fact that we've got ongoing links and relationships with everybody from the South West Dorset Multicultural Network and our local press show that it's important for a church to develop those relationships so that they already exist when you start tackling something that is going to be quite delicate and controversial.